this video, I want to talk to you about sculpting sound using shaping EQ. This kind of EQ, or this approach to equalization, it's a very different approach from that very surgical model that we looked at earlier in the process. And typically I would use shaping EQ at the very end of my processing chain, just before you get to kind of limiting and perhaps making a sound louder through limiting. So shaping EQ is a means of using tonal balance to balance your track or even your individual part, to very gently pull out some tonal characteristics that you want to make more of. The reason I use it towards the end of the chain is it's usually used very subtly, and it's often used on groups or buses within my tracks, almost as a tool to, it's almost like a mixing tool. So rather than always reaching for the fader to move things up and down, sometimes a small amount of shaping EQ can be a really helpful device in just taking one of these groups of sounds that we have and helping it sit together in the right way within our mix. Now, I've got this track up and running, which is just an 8-bar loop of a track that's finished. And I've just selected these parts so that I can kind of demonstrate what I mean by shaping EQ when applied to our groups. I'm just going to listen to the track for a second. Now, with shaping EQ, I generally like to use very, very wide, broad brush strokes. So we're not looking for surgical boosts and surgical cuts at this point. We're generally just looking to massage the sound. We've got that much bigger picture mindset. So we're just thinking about this in terms of, we know that all of our parts are well balanced internally. So for example, our drums all sit together nicely. But, you know, a question for ourselves within the mix as a whole, so listening to this as a track, is do these drums maybe have enough presence about them? So one way we could add presence using shaping EQ is maybe just to add a very broad boost here around, I don't know, 2K or something. And then maybe a touch of high shelf there just to help with the very top end. Take that out. You see how that has quite a radical effect in just bringing the drums slightly more to the fore and giving them more crispiness and more, just more brightness. Another example would be to look at our pad sounds here and just ask ourselves if, in the context of the track, pads for me are providing a very warm and sort of smooth, analogy, slightly dirty but analogy sound. But they don't have an awful lot going on in the like low mids, almost nothing in fact in the low end and the low mids. So one way we could actually make this slightly less of a fizzy sound is we could take a high shelf here. It's quite important that we do this in the context of the other parts as well. Hear how that changes the character really of the part. It really sets it back from being quite as upfront within the mix and just makes it slightly more recessive. Or A-B it. So by losing some of that top end, what you're doing is you're creating more of a sense of sort of analog warmth, really, and more of a vintage sound, which is kind of what I'm looking for. So there are just a couple of examples of the way that you can use shaping EQ to make these much broader, bigger picture changes. Obviously, you can then go into some of your groups, and if you have subgroups, as I have here, so I have within my drums, I have tops, fuzzies, perks, loops and snares. So if I wanted to, say, just bring out some of the presence on the snares and have them punch through a bit more without boosting the same frequencies within our top ends or our loops, then obviously I could just go into these groups and add an EQ8 or whichever EQ you choose, and just add some of that very gentle shaping EQ. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content in a similar vein. Also, check out my website at mixingmasteringmentoring.com, where I provide mixing, mastering and one-to-one mentoring services, as well as a range of PDFs for free download and all of these tutorials in one place. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.